KPV is actually one of the best peptides to help mediate some of the poor choices with our food. So if you're ever thinking, how can I mitigate, poor diet? If you're hanging out with family or maybe they're holidays or something, KPV could be a really good prospect for you. So if you want to have better muscle tissue, better capabilities of healing any kind of tissue damage, including the tissue in your intestines, BPC is the way to go. Cade, we got a client he's like, nothing has ever worked. Once they got him on the BPC, he was like, I can't believe it. My acid reflux is gone. With our yams, so we'll make a bunch, then we'll put it in the fridge, and then we won't eat it until the next day. And that's when the starch has changed, so that feeds the bacteria in your gut. So these are all just some small little things you can do that make a huge difference in your digestion.
All right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Unreasonable Health Podcast. This is your host today, Cade Archibald. And last night we had a really fun HAC or Health Accelerator Challenge. If you're not a part of the Health Accelerator Challenges, go to acueastwest.com/HAC. That's HAC. And this is where we'll initiate some different challenges and things that you can work on to level up your health. Last night we talked about there's 6 essential habits. We're at the brand new year, 2024, and so as you're looking at establishing some new goals, the best way to help accomplish those goals is make some tweaks to your habits. So a good book resource we talked about was Atomic Habits by James Clear. Talks about habit stacking and how you can really start talking to yourself like you're already the person you're trying to become. And that's how you actually become that person. So hopefully that was fun for the attendees. You probably heard that on the last podcast as well if you're listening to the recordings. If you're not registered for those live, go to acueastwest.com/HAC and make sure you're registered for that. All right. And along with me, we got Regan Archibald here, and we're going to be jumping into Regan. How's it going?
Great. Yeah, really good.
So we're going to jump into the peptide of the day.
Yeah.
Regan, what's the peptide of the day?
So peptide of the day is KPV and BPC 157. So KPV is this really cool tripeptide, and research has shown that it helps in wound healing. A lot of us, we think of this to be primarily for leaky gut. It's which it's really good for. But one of the studies they found that it works on the alpha MSH pathways, which offer a host of benefits, including wound healing, reducing infection, fighting inflammation. And then it also is really good for overall skin health. So those of you who, you want to grow old but look young, KPV is really important. It's kind of that healing from the inside out, or beauty comes from the inside first. It's some of the research that they did on mice is they gave one group of mice, they induced colitis in both groups of mice, same genetic lineage. And one group of mice had KPV in the water. The other group of mice just received water. And the group that just received water, their colitis got out of control, whereas the group that received the KPV, their colitis went into remission. And so, if you've got, and a lot of these studies, they're eventually they'll get more into human studies, but we've seen some overlap there. But KPV is it's a tripeptide, and it's expressed in your small intestine. And so small intestine is such a powerful organ because not only is that where your nutrients are exchanged, where you actually get nutrients pulled into the blood, which go into the liver and things get processed. But the other thing that happens in your small intestine is it's also where you have these CD34 stem cells, which signal stem cell proliferation in your entire body. It's a really, really unique system. And so KPV is right there mediating the inflammatory effects that happen when we eat foods that can irritate the small intestine. So, okay, guess which foods could be the most pro-inflammatory for your small intestine?
I would imagine gluten or like chemicals like glyphosate's going to be super inflammatory, antibiotics, or you said foods, right?
Yeah. Oh, that's it. Yeah. Well, I mean, gluten, one of the big issues is the glyphosate in it. But if you think of the stem cell diet that we put our clients on, and I know several of you on here today, which I'd love to hear how you guys are doing. But several of you, we said, hey, we want you on this anti-inflammatory diet. And one of the things we want you to remove is gluten, dairy. There's certain proteins in dairy that can elicit an inflammatory response. But KPV is actually one of the best peptides to help mediate some of the poor choices we eat with our food. So if you're ever thinking, how can I mitigate, poor diet? If you're, hanging out with family or maybe they're holidays or something, well, KPV could be a really good prospect for you. The other thing about KPV that's interesting is it helps with cystic acne. I almost wanted to say cyclic acne, but cystic acne helps with Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, IBS, eczema, psoriasis. If you've had mold or Lyme exposure, this peptide is very similar to like melanotan. However, it does not help with tanning. But our clients do great who've had Lyme, mold exposures, potential with multiple sclerosis. They've seen some very positive benefits in the nerve sheath, and then also inflammatory conditions of the eyes, the skin. If you read your labs and you see you've got elevated eosinophils, and you do tend to get allergies or, kind of allergic asthma, KPV is a phenomenal peptide for that. So KPV. The other one is BPC 157. And the reason why we're making this like peptide of the day, and by the way, KPV's been, some of the earliest research I could find on it was 2008. So it's been around for quite a while. It's underutilized in my opinion. You'll see it. We use it a lot here at EastWest, but it's one of those peptides that it's not talked about in the community a lot, but it's very powerful. And sometimes the tripeptides, like these very small, what are called bioregulators, we tend to define those as being 5 amino acid chains or fewer. But those bonds that are created in those 3 amino acid structures, and they're folded in a really unique way. But what those bioregulators do is they'll upregulate hundreds and in some case thousands of healthy gene expressions. So if you're really looking to optimize your capabilities for age reversal, KPV is just it's one that you don't want to overlook. And the bioregulators are also in the process of turning on genes that you want expressed. They're turning off genes that you don't want to express. So it's a really unique combination. And then when you stack BPC 157 on it, in some of the new cellular medicine that we're launching this week, as a matter of fact, from New BioAge, they actually have a formula called glutides. So many of you will see this in your upcoming peptide stack. Is you're like, what are the glutides? And you'll see it's actually KPV and BPC 157 arginate, the more stable version of BPC 157. And the glutides are really powerful because when you stack BPC, so BPC is made it's made primarily in the stomach, and it's a very phenomenal peptide for healing leaky gut, similar to KPV, but it does it in a different mechanism of action. So this one works by creating angiogenic properties in the blood. It upregulates fibrocystic growth factors. So if you want to have better muscle tissue, better capabilities of healing any kind of tissue damage, including the tissue in your intestines, BPC is the way to go. And I have clients, and some of you may be on here, but I have several of you who have had acid reflux your whole life. Cade, we got a client he's like, nothing has ever worked, not the proton pump inhibitors, the omeprazole. It kind of tames his acid reflux. Once they got him on the BPC, he was like, I can't believe it. My acid reflux is gone.
Wow, that's awesome.
And not only is it gone, but one of the risks that you have if you're taking some of the antacids, or you're taking like a proton pump inhibitor like omeprazole, you're not getting the right acid secretion in your gut. And then we're going to ask you to eat a lot of protein. And many of you have noticed that in our program. We're like, hey, we want you to have a muscled up future, but we want you eating 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, which we're going to dive into a little bit in the podcast here is where to get sources of protein. And so, but BPC 157 and KPV can be really important because if you're not digesting the protein, it ends up just fermenting in your gut. And then, or I could use a more descriptive word like rotting in your gut, or it's just basically going necrotic in your gut. So you don't want that. You want to eat your protein, break it down, get them into your muscles, activate all the different genetic pathways that are activated when you have enough protein, because that's what our body is sensing all the time, is like, do you have enough protein to basically handle what work is in front of you? So anyway, we'll jump into this more, but BPC 157 is phenomenal at this. One of the other studies that they did recently is where they induced a concussion in rats. They dropped a brick on the rats' heads. And I didn't make up the study, but I mean, it's weird. They dropped a brick, and then one group of the rats got just like saline injections. The other group got the BPC 157. And the group that got the saline injections never recovered from that traumatic brain injury, because those can be incredibly dangerous, not only for rats, but for humans.
Yeah, a brick falling on the head, that could damage a human. I could imagine what it'd do to a rat. They must have been big rats, though.
I don't know. They didn't show images.
They didn't specify the size.
Believe it or not, I think the PETA organization would have gone up, and I mean, it's just like, it's weird, but I don't know that they've completed that study on humans yet. But maybe there's some politicians that we want to do that with. But but other than that, wake up. So it's interesting. So if you combine these, what they found is that BPC 157 is actually neuroprotective. So it helped the brain heal of these rats. So they recovered full range of motion. They seem to do really well post traumatic brain injury. So and that goes back to this whole process of when you've got the fibroblastic growth factors, that's going to help your muscles heal, the tissue heal, the tendons heal. Everything that gets inflamed heal much quicker. I have a professional golfer who texted me last night, and he's like, he made it to whatever the PGA tournament he was qualifying for, and he's just recovered from a shoulder injury. But he's like, the BPC has been awesome. He came and we did the stem cells, got a stem cell rejuvenation in his shoulder, and now he's doing the BPC and the thymosin beta 4. And so it's exciting to see the possibilities with these peptides. So those are the peptides of the day.
Love it.
Yeah.
BPC 157 and KPV. Yeah, come grab them. We'll have some info on gut tides in the notes here as well.
Yeah, yeah. I'm excited on the gut tides. Those are going to be really powerful. So one thing I wanted to jump into today, because we're talking about the gut, there's a couple other things, and I'm going to pull up a gut test so that everybody can see. If you have taken a stool test with us at EastWest, this would be a really good opportunity to pull that up and look at your gut labs and see how they are. Let me see if I can find one here. But really, when you look at the gut, you chew your food, and as you chew your food, there's an enzyme called amylase that starts to allow you to break down the foods. And the goal of having a proper digestive system is when you swallow it, then you have stomach acids that denature the proteins and start allowing your body to take in and absorb all of the great benefits from those amino acids. And one of the big issues that we have with looking at protein these days is protein's been a little bit vilified over the years, and it's been somewhat neglected because a protein, like Cade, if you think of a protein, you have to have at least 9 amino acids to make a full protein complex, right? And you don't look on a label and you're not looking at all of the essential and non-essential amino acids. And so it becomes pretty challenging to see what the body's utilizing. So actually, instead of a stool test, what I'm going to do is show you guys metabolomics real quick here, because I can't find a sample one. But Cade, maybe I'll let you in the background white out some name, and then you can pull up a Genova gut test if you wouldn't mind. All mine would violate HIPAA. Nobody wants the world knowing what's going on in their stool.
For sure.
Maybe our clients probably wouldn't care, but don't want to risk it. So if you look at metabolomics, for example, we're looking at 5 major categories: your oxidative stress, your mitochondrial dysfunction, omega imbalance, toxic exposure, and methylation imbalance. And the fascinating thing about this is you can see all of the amino acids that are tested for. And there's a bunch of amino acids. It's not like a protein is not just a protein, and every protein has a different combination of amino acids. And so, for example, if you're eating collagen or bone broth and counting that as a protein source, that's fine if you add in a little bit of tryptophan, because the collagen and the bone broth, which are really good for the gut, some of the best ways you can heal leaky gut, and great to use that. I like a product called SBI Protect. I believe it's from Orthomolecular. And then doing colostrum every day is phenomenal. And then I do like using the collagen. I do like using bone broth because of the way that it heals the leaky gut. But you can create a dysregulation because it doesn't have all 9 of the essential amino acids. And an essential amino acid means these your body needs from the outside world that you got to bring it in. And so if you have a tryptophan imbalance, like I've got this is my test, you can see I have a slight tryptophan deficiency because I was using a lot of collagen, and I realized I'm starting to dysregulate things somewhat. I also found I had a glycine deficiency, and that's pretty dangerous because glycine is one of the 3 primary amino acids that makes up the collagen structures and the cartilage that holds your joints together. And glycine is disrupted by glyphosate. And I've spent a good portion of the last 25 years getting glyphosate out of my body, but the stuff is it doesn't die fast. So then I've been supplementing with glycine, and it's made a big difference. But if you look at these proteins, you can see methionine is one of the amino acids. And if you do tend to eat like a lot of hamburger, which is, pretty darn easy meat to digest, the lean, 93, 95% lean. I even like the hamburger from elk and deer because it's like 97% lean. But if you're eating too much hamburger, you can end up having too much methionine in your body, and that can cause another problem. So make sure you're alternating different meats that you're eating. But in general, meats have all of these amino acids, and that's one of the reasons why they're somewhat more favorable than like a vegan source or a plant-based source protein. There are some great plant-based source proteins, and one which we'll be releasing probably in March or April is actually from duckweed, which has natural recurring sources of B vitamins, which is unusual. So really powerful. So let's look at the digestive process as we go through it. So if you remember the Krebs cycle, this is very interesting. It's also known as the citric acid cycle. But there's fatty acids, so there's fats, there's carbohydrates, and there's proteins. Those are what we call macronutrients or large nutrients. So those are the three nutrients that your body can feed on. And there's a lot of misconceptions about should I do a keto diet? Should I go low carb? Should I go high protein? And in general, it just depends on how well your digestive system breaks these things down. And so you can see, as we looked at mine, we can see fatty acids. I do pretty good at making the fatty acids, the adipic acid, the subiuric acid. And my carbohydrates, I was on a low carbohydrate diet at the time and didn't really think anything of it. But then once I saw that I was making very low lactic acid, which is fuel for the muscles, and then my pyruvic acid was low, I realized I've got to start adding in more carbohydrates. And since I've done that, I've noticed a massive increase in my overall sleep, which translates to better energy. And so it's been nice because I like my bread. And so if I can add in, I'm like, oh, I need to be getting about 200 grams of carbohydrates in per day. And still, most days I end up with about 150, but if I can get it closer to 200 grams of protein, 200 grams of carbohydrates, my body just functions a lot better. And so then, if you think about breaking these things down in your digestive system, one of the things that you can do, not only do you want to protect the leaky gut, make sure you're not eating the pro-inflammatory foods. So yeah, the breads that I eat, they're from kamut, fermented or sourdough flour, and higher protein content. And those are great. I have sweet potatoes. Like I have these tasty Kate, have you had Japanese yams?
I don't think I have. Or
Oh,
maybe I just don't know what they are. What's the difference between traditional yams and Japanese yams?
Japanese yams are purple. And so it's just a great color. And that's really the only benefit. No,
They're not as orange, they're more purple.
Yeah, I don't know on the beta carotene. From what I've heard, is that the beta carotene, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. We all have Google, but there's higher levels of beta carotene, higher levels of phosphorus, higher levels of minerals in these Japanese yams, and it's one of the foods in the Okinawa area in Japan, which is one of the blue zones. It was a blue zone. It's not a blue zone anymore because they brought in like Kentucky Fried Chicken and Taco Bell and all the crazy American fast food restaurants. And so now they have an obesity crisis there, which is tragic. But what their primary source of food was these yams, and they're really good for you. But those are some great sources of carbohydrates. You can also freeze your bread. I don't know if you knew this, Cade, but bread, you can get more resistant starch out of it if you put it in the freezer. So you get a loaf of bread, put it in the freezer for 24 hours, pull it out. And the research, they don't find that by leaving it in 5 days, you get more resistant starch. There's not like more time is not better. You just get freezer burned after too much time. But that actually gives more resistant starch. Or with our yams, so we'll make a bunch, then we'll put it in the fridge, and then we won't eat it until the next day. And that's when the starch has changed. So that feeds the bacteria in your gut. But so these are all just some small little things you can do that make a huge difference in your digestion. So when you're eating the proteins, you want to make sure that you think in the morning, try to eat leaner proteins, aim for 50 grams in the morning, 50 grams for lunch. And we do have a new document that I'm happy to share with everybody on the proteins, because it is challenging thinking, a lot of you, when I say, hey, you need to be eating 150 grams of protein a day, and then your eyes are like busting out of your skull because you're like, how am I going to get that? But I can promise you, if you eat 50 or 60 grams, like for breakfast, I had 72 grams of protein. And I feel great, satiated. It's not hard to eat. I ate chicken and Greek yogurt. That was it. So not that hard, and actually I had a scoop of whey in the Greek yogurt as well. So it's easy. It was about 4 ounces of chicken. And then I had 320 grams of yogurt, of Greek yogurt, with a scoop of whey protein. And it was nice, really good breakfast. And then for lunch, I'll try to get the same, try to get around to about 120 grams of protein by lunch. And, everything I'm doing right now is pretty minimal on the carbs. Then at dinner is where I start adding in more of the carbohydrates when my body is more insulin sensitive. And then those carbohydrates really will help you sleep great. But as we look at this digestive process, look at your metabolomics test. This is a urine test. Look at how well your body translates fatty acids into energy, carbohydrates into energy, proteins into energy. It all ends up as acetyl-CoA. And then from that acetyl-CoA pathway, you can go into ketogenesis or into the citric acid cycle. And then that brings energy into what's called the electron transport chain. And so for some of you who are on methylene blue helps optimize this electron transport chain so that you get better energy production into the mitochondria. So pretty fascinating there. Cade, any luck on that stool test?
Yep, I just got it cleaned up, and do you want me to send it over to you?
Just share the screen. I think that'd be great. All right. And then what we're going to do is, once we'll go through the gut, then I'll end by sharing a new document that our health advisors have created that will help you guys get some better insights on it. All right, so you can just scroll down here, Cade, for me.
All right.
So you can see in the digestive, there's 5 major categories that we're looking at. But if you look at maldigestion, this is where it's really important to breaking down proteins. It's really important to have good hydrochloric acid. So we talked about KPV and BPC 157, those peptides. The other thing you want to consider is using tributarin. Tributarin, or the butyrate or new butyrate, is something you guys will be seeing a lot of in your protocols. But what we found is that does help facilitate the nice feeding of the bacteria in your gut, but it also helps with the metabolic processes. So you can see if you've got metabolic imbalance, like short chain fatty acids are off, or beta glucuronidase, or your N-butyrate concentrations off, then tributarin can be one of the most powerful ways of healing your gut and actually starting to break down foods. The other thing that you want to do to help ensure that you break down protein is consume nice hydrochloric acid, so some enzymes. So I like the probe, it's called the HCl Prozyme. And it's got bile salts, but it also has hydrochloric acid and all the enzymes that you need to break down your foods properly. You can also use a little bit of apple cider vinegar. That seems to help make sure you chew your food properly. But all those become really important as we're kind of leaning into getting more protein, but don't do that at the expense of wrecking your gut. I've had a lot of athletes who have just pushed their gut. Their coaches have wanted to eat nonstop. Actually, I had one of my college football player, he ended up with diabetes. because he was eating, he was drinking like a gallon or more of milk, usually chocolate milk, and then peanut butter and jam sandwiches, just like nonstop, just trying to put on weight because his coach was like, you need to be 30 pounds heavier. And it, destroyed his health in the process. So don't add more protein at the expense of your digestive system. And Cade, when do you know if you haven't broken down protein?
You're usually quite gassy and probably loose stools or
Constipated.
Constipation, yeah.
Yeah.
One of those two, you kind of just know it. Also just doesn't feel good. You feel like you're like just backed up.
Yeah. And it's the gas, the stinky farts. That's your number one. If you just have
Protein farts.
if you just have farts that are kind of like loud and they don't stink, then that's carbohydrate digestion. So in case you guys wanted to know.
Well, I think that's important for us to know. Like
Right.
how my farts are indicates how my gut health is. So if they're stinky, you got you're not breaking down your proteins.
Yeah.
Versus if they're just loud and obnoxious, but they don't necessarily smell, that's a carbohydrate issue.
Yeah. I'll ask you next time we're together, Cade, what your diagnosis is with me.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, you got my pleasure. I'd love to, make sure I get to the bottom of it. But yeah, these are really, and sometimes you can have like infections, parasites, yeast, things like that can trigger gas as well. So, but just in general, if you cleared those things out. And so that's what I wanted to show there. So that's great, Cade. So make sure you guys are getting your stool test ran. Looking at all these patterns is going to be really important. And then what I'm going to do is I'll share the new protein cheat sheet. So
nice. Oh, that's all you wanted to look at was
that was it. Just the
five categories. Yeah, for those of you that don't have the visual, just looking at maldigestion, inflammation, dysbiosis, metabolic imbalance, and infections. Really cool, comprehensive digestive profile that really good, effective test. Love it.
Yes. And this is, Cade, we'll want to email this out to the list, or at least include it in the podcast as we record it. But if you want to look at grams of protein, so you want to look at 1 ounce of meat is approximately 7 grams of protein. And so it's pretty interesting because if we're aiming for like 50 grams in a sitting for meals, and then depending on what you need, maybe some snacks in between, some protein snacks, that's going to be 8 ounces of like chicken, beef, or fish, and 7 eggs. It's a lot of eggs, and it's a lot of yogurt. Like for Greek yogurt, it's like 50 grams, depending on if you can get one that's like 16 grams of protein per 170 grams. So whatever that is, it's like too much. It's ridiculous. Like to eat that much in yogurt, you get pretty sick. But well, I guess not necessarily, but it just may bloat you. But now, ideally, you want to get grass-fed, no grain-fed animal meat. What goes into your meat goes into your body in general. Yes, they have organs that filter out a lot of the toxins, but especially with like growth hormones, antibiotics, that can be dangerous. So watch out for that. We talked about some of the plant proteins. So spirulina, hemp seeds, nuts, even Brussels sprouts have good protein. The vegetable source that has the highest levels of protein is asparagus. Kate, have you seen the cartoon with Archibald asparagus on it?
No. I'm looking that up though.
Yeah, you got to look that up. It's I don't know. Sorry for the tangent, everybody, but it's just kind of interesting. Archibald asparagus, high levels, and asparagus has asparagine in it, which is a really good way of cleaning out your urethra and bladder. That's why your urine can smell kind of potent after it. But so there's some ways you can track your protein. MyFitnessPal is a great one. My wife uses that, loves it. Lose It is another great one. And then there's grocery delivery. There's options like you can go to grassroots co-op.com. You can go to wildalaskancompany.com, and we've used them for our fish. It's awesome. You can do the Chomps jerky from Thrive Market, for collagen and pea protein powders that are really clean, the Truvani. And then whey, we have these proteins with the colostrum and whey for Thorne. Paleo Valley also has some great ones. If you're looking for high protein delivery ideas, you can go to balancebites.com. You can go to providencemills.com. You can also go to thedailydoselife.com, and then Trifecta Mills. So, and Anne's done a phenomenal job at kind of listing out some of these high protein meal ideas. We'll include a link to this document, get it a little more east-west, but you can see there's just so many options that she put together here. What's a good snack? Well, eat 2 hard-boiled eggs. There's approximately 14 grams of protein total. You can do some turkey slices. If you get 2 turkey slices, maybe you'll get another 22 grams. And turkey is a very lean protein source. If you want a cup of organic Greek yogurt, watch out for the sugar. Don't do the sweetened kind. Put in some unflavored collagen, little organic berries, cinnamon on top, and that gives you about 27 grams of protein without the collagen. You add collagen, it's about 37 grams. Add a little bit of turkey, so you get your tryptophan to complete that. And there's just some awesome things that you can do if you just have a little bit of intention around this. So the other document that I wanted to share is, and we will email that out, but it's the document that has all of the ways of reading labels. So, and we'll share this with you. I don't have it in front of me, but Cade, I don't know if you saw the one Nikki created, our fitness team, but yeah, it's awesome. So, that one is, it basically is just an infographic of how to read labels. So what we encourage you guys to do in your reset, get rid of anything on the label that has more than 1 gram of sugar, unless it's like some kind of natural product, like a yogurt's going to have, 5 grams or something of naturally occurring sugar, but no processed sugar. And then, get your protein in it. Makes you more satiated, great for your muscles, great for the bones. So, Cade, what questions do you have on protein and gut and how it all ties together?
What questions? So I think, so when we're looking at, like for me, my genetics came back, and like saturated fats, I don't do the best with.
Yeah.
And dairy fat I do okay with. So what, like, ideal proteins for me, what would that be?
Yeah, well, just like the lean meats are going to be better. So elk, venison, bison, those that game meat would be huge. Chicken, turkey, the turkey loin is actually really good. Turkey. I don't like turkey, but turkey loin is pretty good. The pork loin's really good. You've had it at my house where Jess has made it. Those are perfect for you.
Nice. And then like yogurt is kind of an added snack.
Yep, yogurt could be good. We got to get your skin condition. So kind of the casein in dairy could be pro-inflammatory for your skin. Yeah. So I would go easy on the yogurt until that gets cleared up.
Great. Awesome.
Cool. Yeah. And then make sure you're on your KPV, BPC 157, and then your tributarin, a little bit of colostrum or bone broth every day, and then your digestive enzymes, and you'll just be able to just handle whatever you throw at it. Your digestive system will love you.
Just a bulletproof digestive system. Well, awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Regan. That was some really cool content. Covered a lot of ground. Covered the metabolomics test, talked about KPV and BPC, the gut tides, and then dove into digestive panel, and then also got you some good nuggets on proteins and how to build enough protein into your meal planning so you can really put on muscle and be satiated, feel really good, have the energy levels you want to have. Let's see. And we had one question come in on the KPV. Do we need to take that away from food?
Yes, it's helpful if you can take it like 30 minutes before you eat is ideal on an empty stomach.
Nice. All right.
Cool.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Regan.
You got it. Thanks everyone for being part of the community. And let's get your gut incredibly healthy this year.
Yes. We'll see everybody. Have a great day.